I am not a financial advisor, and I never give financial advice on this channel. 100% of this content is for entertainment purposes only. Hello everybody, hope you're all doing well. It's Lane here with MetaShackle. Today I'm going to be going over the XRP, Bitcoin, and Ethereum charts really quickly. So let's not waste any more time and let's get into this. Taking a look at the Bitcoin chart, you can see that we came up here, consolidated quite a bit within these few candles, which is indicative of a large position, either buying or selling a large position. We came up into the bearish order block right here, which starts at about that 107,000 range, falling back down to this bearish SIBI and just below. We did not take out the weak doji reverse waterfall in the 1 hour chart, and as you can clearly see, we're now making another run at that bearish order block. But a rejection here could be very bad for the price. So we'll have to wait and see what happens here. If we get through this and up above, we could potentially be targeting that area that I've been talking about for quite some time, setting a new all-time high at about that 110,450, up here to about that 112,700, moving up towards the upper trend line. I marked this circle on the charts quite some time ago. So we'll definitely want to keep an eye on Bitcoin and see how it moves, because a lot of other cryptos have diverged heavily, especially XRP, from Bitcoin. Now taking a look at the Ethereum chart, price came down into the equilibrium zone. Keep in mind this is the 4 hour chart, not the daily. Came up, tapped this bearish order block right in this area, right here. Price then fell down to this bullish order block, took a few draws on liquidity here, and is now moving pretty similar to what Bitcoin is doing. Keep an eye on this bearish order block right here at the 2,575 level, centered at about the 2,600 level, as well as the weak doji waterfall in the 4 hour, which is right at that 2,593. It'll be interesting to see whether or not Ethereum continues running up with Bitcoin, because as we know, throughout the previous bull cycles we've experienced, Bitcoin and Ethereum ran fairly similar to each other. And keep in mind that on the daily chart, price is trading right here. The equilibrium zone is just above this area, starting at about that 2,687, the equilibrium line centered at 2,794. If we break up and out of this short-term pattern right here, watch for that equilibrium zone. If we can get out and above that, eventually moving outside and above of the equilibrium zone, with a full body candle including the wicks, we could see a very good move here. It is quite a long ways from current price to this upper trend line, which would be somewhere around a 57% gain if it can make a move of that magnitude. So we'll definitely want to keep an eye on Ethereum as well as Bitcoin, and then comparing the two separately to other altcoins like XRP. For additional information and exclusive perks, do consider joining me on Patreon. Now taking a look at the XRP charts, the first thing that I need to mention is the fact that I have moved and adjusted my equilibrium zone on this particular chart. Now that we've had more price information in this area, it fits much better just a hair lower than it was. So I've since adjusted that, which brings the equilibrium line down here to the $2.40 range, which is where price is currently stalling out right here. Price came up, struggled in this area, which we will have to watch moving forward. If we get up above this equilibrium zone into this area, it's still likely to be very challenging to get through this bearish fair value gap on the daily chart. Getting above this would be absolutely incredible for price. We've also been forming a head and shoulders pattern right here, as you can see on the charts, which may or may not come into play. And the other thing that I'd like to mention is in adjusting the equilibrium zone here, this ended up bringing the -5 line on my Fibonacci's right to the exact same area where we see the gap on the 4 hour chart that I've talked about in previous videos. One of my master tier members on Patreon, Hunter, actually posted this chart in the master tier chat, which I think is very helpful. It shows the equidistance on each side of this pattern, how it seems to be very similar, which is very interesting. He's also highlighted the liquidation zone area right down here in the red on his chart. It's not guaranteed that we'll drop down to that level, but it is very likely that we will have some kind of a draw on liquidity at some point, even if we start to break to the upside. But that doesn't necessarily mean that it has to happen that way. So keep that in mind. You can also see from looking at the XRP chart how much it is lagging behind Bitcoin and Ethereum. But XRP also has some other factors affecting it that those other two cryptos simply don't have. And also pay attention to the fact that this head and shoulders pattern, the neckline below it, we also have a shadow right up here in the top, which is forming a nice descending wedge pattern. So we're kind of at a point right here where this thing could essentially go either way. If it breaks to the upside, we want to watch it get a full body candle with the wicks included up and above the equilibrium zone and take out this bearish fair value gap right here moving to the upside. If price gets rejected and comes down, we want to watch this bullish order block right here and potentially see price break through that, coming down and retesting the 200-day moving average. If that doesn't hold, it's very likely that we would come down here and fill this gap right here at the 218.5 level. So we'll definitely want to be keeping an eye on this, especially in the area of the trend line where we're at right now, because if this suddenly just starts following Bitcoin and Ethereum, we could see it break out to the upside. And this trend line right here, which is the overall trend line for the entire pattern, if we get out above this and the equilibrium zone, that could give us what we need to punch through this bad boy and start moving to the upside. Because as you know, the XRP breakout chart has been predicting for 5 months that we would see the breakout begin in the month of May, which I believe we have already started to see, moving into June, July, and potentially even August. And I think the biggest part of this breakout part of the move will actually begin either in late May or early June. But one thing's for sure, if we do get a big draw in liquidity at some point, once the market makers are sufficed, then we shall see our big move up. And once that move begins, it's going to be absolutely incredible. So if you're a trader, I would be very cautious about shorting in an uptrend. And consider doing what much more experienced traders would tend to do in situations like this, which would be accumulating more at perceived lows. But that's not financial advice. That's simply just my opinion. So thank you so much for watching. I appreciate each and every single one of you. Have a great day.